And we are live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Bigfoot Odyssey's Researchers Report. Got a special show for you tonight. Coming to us all the way from the UK, England, creator and host of everybody's favorite Bigfoot Breakdown YouTube channel, Bigfoot Tony, Mr. Jason Parsons. Welcome, Jason.
Hi, and it's Wales.
Is it Wales? Okay, I'm sorry. I knew that too.
That's all right.
and our guest for this evening, coming to us all the way from Seattle, Washington, creator and host of Monster Island, or Sasquatch Island. I'm sorry, Sasquatch Island on Monster X Radio, Mr. Tom Sewid. Welcome, Tom.
Oh, Gelakaslav. Thanks for having me on.
Oh yeah, man. Thank you for joining. I forgot to turn my volume down. All right. Before we get started, just want to remind everyone in the chat, please keep it clean. You see those guys in there with the blue wrenches? Those are moderators. They will time you out. So we just ask that you be respectful and no swearing, and we do appreciate that. And with with no more ado, Jason, go right ahead.
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
Can I call you Tom? Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Okay, great. What I'd like to ask is, I heard in an interview that you did about the Bukwas. Is that how you pronounce it? Bukwas?
No. Chunakwa.
No.
Chunakwa.
Sorry. Chunakwa.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is that? What is that? Chunakwa? Can you describe that?
Chunakwa is my tribe's interpretation of Sasquatch, Bigfoot. Bukwas, as you'll know when you read books about Sasquatch and Bigfoot, you'll often see Quagyul or Quackyoodle or Quackwakiwak, as we call ourselves from northeastern Vancouver Island. They'll always say the Bukwas is our Sasquatch. Absolutely not. It's been lost in translation, and a lot of people get mistaken. The Bukwas is a small little hair-covered bipedal creature from the spiritual realm, and it's the chief of the ghost world. Our Sasquatch is Chunakwa.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because it was more of the spiritual side, the Bukwas, isn't it? That's right. So you're making it clear that you don't want people to get mistaken from the more physical aspect, which is the one that you believe in. Right, is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you feel strongly about the flesh and blood. Isn't that right?
Oh yeah, I don't follow the spiritual side. I guess you could say the woo-woo side. I don't follow that. The reason being is, being a bushman, I believe in being crispy out there. So if you're not crispy in the bush, you're gonna slip, fall, break a hip, pop a knee, and something's gonna eat you and poop you out. So you got to be crispy in the bush. And if you're looking for portholes and UFOs landing and Sasquatch crawling out, you're gonna trip and break something and end up getting pooped out by a critter. So I stay crispy.
So do you think, I know you said something will eat you and poop you out. Are you referring to Sasquatch there?
Oh, he'll eat you and poop you out if you disrespect him. That's why you never disrespect the Sasquatch. You go in, if he gives you that great opportunity where you get to smell him or hear him or see him, well, then you just got to look at that as one of the most humbling and most precious moments of your life. But you never go in there, and I'm dead against anyone who wants to go in there and try to kill him. It's wrong. You don't ever even think that.
What do you think would be a good reason for them to possibly attack you or even kill a human being? Do you
because
think?
you do like. Well, number one, we're taught as kids, if you hear or something's thrown at you or trees are shooking around,
Breaking up there, I think.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, Tom.
That's telling you that they're working that beach. You get back in your boat and you go a mile or two either side of that beach, take a look around. If you don't see anything or see any bells, then you can dig there. Respect if we
lost you there.
Yeah, you got a real bad connection or something, Tom. We're losing you, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, you seem to be back now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you walked a little too far. You were good. You were good when we started.
Oh, are you walking around?
Nope, I'm staying right where I am now.
Okay.
You still on the bench?
Yeah, I'm on the bench.
Okay.
That's better.
Yeah, that's better. It sounds windy there.
Yeah, it's a little bit breezy. We're outside of the powwow grounds here in Muckleshoot Indian Reserve, south of Seattle. Yeah.
You're stuck there. Paused or lost signal maybe again.
Yeah, it's nothing I can do about it. It's on the Indian Reserve.
Yeah, no,
we'll
we'll forge through it best we can. It is what it is. We appreciate you joining us there, Tom. I will say this: Scott Owens, our producer for the travel show, has got a new format for us. It's called. Wait a minute, I'll tell you. It's called StreamYard. We're going to be using StreamYard. We're getting away from Google Hangouts. There's too many glitches with this particular program, but we're going with StreamYard. It's a much clearer, a lot more bells and whistles. It's going to increase our production value. That's coming in a couple of weeks. So just bear with us on that. And we'll, like I said, we'll forge on with this the best we can, Tom.
Yeah.
Can we have an encounter from you then, Tom? Would that be okay?
Yeah, I guess my best encounter was in 2006. I was at my cabins that looked like traditional native style longhouses made out of cedar. And how do you guys pick it up? All right?
Yeah, good now. Yeah.
Yeah. And my sister was with me. I call her a concrete Indian because she's 10 years younger and grew up in the concrete world instead of the bush water world like me. And I just finished cutting up driftwood with a power saw, 2 tanks of gas. So I'd been cutting for probably close to 40 minutes or so. And when I was finished, motor died because it ran out of gas. And I grabbed one of the boys threw a can of soda pop at me, and I took a drink, and I sat down on a chair, and all of a sudden these 2 trees just started shaking. And it reminded me of something out of one of those spook movies when a demon or a spirit shakes real fast and vibrates. And I looked at my dog. His name's Land Claims, because my dog, us Indians, were claiming back our lands back here in North America. So I called him Land Claims, treaties now. Everywhere he lifted his leg, we're claiming it back. He was 6 years old, very experienced bush dog. You know, he helps me hunt bears and that at the time. So I told him, Land Claims, get it. And he ran up this rock wall and looked behind these 2 shaking trees. And he just sprung, and in midair he did a 180, hit the ground. He was a blonde streak because he was a blonde lab, and he ran by me and jumped in a dinghy boat. And my boat was anchored offshore, my 12-passenger tour boat, aluminum. And I thought right away, what the hell was that? And these 2 trees are shaking, and all of a sudden this big boulder come rolling down into our camp about the size of a refrigerator. And right away I just looked at my crew. And then I looked behind the cabin, and behind the cabin, I could see this big face, Sasquatch looking at me, and the thing was bloody big. And I just looked at it, and it just grimaced at me. And I backed up behind the cabin, and I looked at my crewman. I said, give me my gun. And he goes, your gun's out on the boat. I said, well, give me an axe. Give me a machete. Give me something. And he's digging around. He got me a machete. And I told my sister, I said, you get in that dinghy right now. And she looked like Jesus Christ trying to walk across the top of the water. It was high tide, running for the dinghy. And she gets in there, and I tell my other 2 crewmen, you guys get in that other dinghy and get out to the boat. And they're like, well, come. And I'm like, no, just get in that bloody boat. So they know not to doubt me, do what I said. And as we're pulling that beach line that goes from the back of the boat to the beach to keep my bow pointing into the wind and waves, my sister starts pulling it and almost topples our little aluminum punt over, a little skiff. I'm telling her, slow down, slow down. Land Claims, my big brave bush dog, is shaking away, lying on the floor. And we get about 2 meters from the swim grid of the boat, and he just launches, hits it, half in the water, scrambles on board the boat. We get on board. I tell my crew to cut the lines. I start the motors, and I grab my gun, and I walk back on deck. My brave dog's hiding up in the bow of the boat in the sleeping quarters, shaken away by my gun. I get on deck, and that's when we heard the screaming. And you could see a tree being shook behind the cabins. And my sister, she's this freak. Get me out of here. Get me beeping out of here, swearing away and crying. So I pull out, and I She goes, bring me back to Sewid. I said, I can't bring you back to port. It's too windy. The waves will be huge there because of the ebbing tide, and it's notorious as just a lousy chunk of water with the ebb tide and the wind on it, northwest wind. So I wanted to go around the corner to this bay and tie up to this old breakwater for a logging landing that was there for processing logs, but no one was there, and get out of the waves. She didn't want any part of that. You get me out of here. So I went across Johnson Strait, the open water, with the wind blowing about 35 knots, and we're on top of this wave surfing, and you know, you look out the window, I say, hey, look out, and it's like 15 feet to the bottom of the wave, and I'm like, see why I can't make it to Sewid? And she's like, just get me the hell out of there. And I get across the strait to a dock in Port Neville, and that's where we stayed that night. But she hasn't been in the bush since. The next day I went in there with 2 other guys, and we just lit her up with guns and banging and shooting. And I had a gallon of water I was drinking as we drove in on a pickup truck for an hour from town. And when I got to my camp, I started peeing all over, shooting my gun at the same time. And what I was doing was staking my claim. This is my cabins, my place. And I'm yelling, you Sasquatches, leave me alone. And, you know, it's just what I had to do. And after that, it was sort of like at peace. They didn't bother me. I always know they're around, see their signs, their tracks, and hear them at night. Every now and then at nighttime, they'll come to the cabins when they're sleeping and sniff around, do their curiosity. But that was probably my best encounter because it scared the beeping hell out of me. Those things are pretty aggressive at night.
Why do you think they were shaking that tree? You said you were saw in the wood, but it wasn't an actual tree you were cutting, right?
Oh, it was driftwood on the beach. Like the tides bring in a lot of driftwood. I live in a rainforest, so our beaches are covered in log. Some of them up to 1 meter thick in diameter, 40 feet long. So I was clearing that so my kayaks could come on the beach. When I had a couple days later, I was going to have some clients coming in that wanted a kayak with the orca whales with me. And that's why I was cleaning the beach of all that driftwood. But I guess they didn't like the sound of my power saw, I guess, or something. I don't know.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe.
Yeah. They let me know.
They were
like
one of their own screaming. Maybe.
Yeah.
So, Kerry, do you want to say something there?
Yeah. Tom, what do you think about the dog man? You got any comments about him?
About the what?
The dog man.
The dog man?
Yeah.
We don't have them in my area, but I read the reports. Other tribes in North America, what I call Sasquatch Island, North America, because the Indians refer to North America as Turtle Island because it looks like a turtle from space. I'm not even going to get into that, but I hear the stories of dog man, and I don't know. So I don't have them in my area, but I know I got some frickin' big wolves, and they're bigger than me, and I'm a man. I'm 210 pounds, and I've seen wolves that are as big as me or bigger. They're pretty spooky.
I'm just curious how you felt about the dog man, if you believed in it, or if you thought people were just mistaking Sasquatch for these things, or what.
It's hard to say, you know. They talk about this muzzle and everything. You know, you look at humans. Some humans look like they got a muzzle, so maybe it's just a Sasquatch. I don't know. Could be. Seen some hairy woman too.
You know, apes have that gnathic index, you know, where that protrusion comes down, and you know, a lot of the reports that you hear, what people describe is that protruding mouth. So I just wonder if that can't be mistaken for a muzzle. And I mean, some people describe a German Shepherd head on a Sasquatch body. So I don't know. It's
see, a lot of people are still trying to find Sasquatch, trying to find tracks. I'm a little bit beyond that because I've seen them, seen their tracks. I'm studying things like the area in British Columbia's central coast. I have a lot of reports that are pointing to the fact, or pointing to the suspicion that these Sasquatches may have leprosy. And then I've worked in another area where the population of Sasquatch is very, very heavy on this Indian reserve. But all around it has been logged for hundreds of miles because it's all farm field. And the only enclave of hardwood forest is in and around this Indian reserve. So one of the things I'm looking at is when I hear reports of, I guess you could say, abnormalities or deformed Sasquatches, maybe it's due to interbreeding. because we do know from the oral history of the Indians here in the Pacific Northwest that smallpox really affected the Sasquatches back in the day. It eradicated 95% of us native people, in some cases 100% of our tribes. And influenza would come, the Spanish flu would come in 1919 area. And we have oral reports that at the same time of these diseases sweeping through the native people, the Sasquatches were coming to the fringes of our villages with their families affected by the diseases, smallpox, influenza, and things like that, tuberculosis even in one report. So when I hear things about abnormalities, I'm thinking, well, maybe people should be looking into, is there just a lot of farm fields around there? Has there been a lot of logging? Is the population so small that there's possibly interbreeding, which we know interbreeding causes deformities in the offspring?
Yeah, you know, you don't hear a whole lot about that aspect of it. Actually, people, there's a lot of people out there that just don't treat this like a regular flesh and blood creature. And
no, and that's where they're not crispy and they're losing track, and also they're disrespecting the creature. Until we get a Jane Goodall, Diane Fossey moment with Sasquatch, where we're actually sitting down and studying them, we're all investigators. And if you start adding in wooism like portholes and mind speak and shape shifting, you know, sure, the First Nations and Native Indians talk about it, but for the newcomers that are getting into the game, it's very disrespectful as an investigator to speculate the Sasquatches are doing this or that. So until we get the Diane Fossey, Jane Goodall moment, we're actually investigating now takes the next step. It goes into the R category, research. We aren't at research yet. And, you know, that's what we're all trying to get to.
Well, that's the way we feel about it here at Bigfoot Odyssey. You know, we don't really put our views out there a whole lot as far as the live show is concerned, just because we try to remain neutral. But when we have guests like you on that pretty much mirror the way we see these things, you know, we'll kind of bring it out. But we do have guests on that talk about the woo. They talk about, I mean, we give them a platform and let them go and let people decide for themselves. You know, we don't judge anybody. We're not going to suppress anyone's view, but we do agree with you that there's a lot more.
Well, I belong to a team, you know, the Monster X team. You know, there's 5 of us. And our motto is Bigfoot without the BS. That means we haven't crossed the threshold into the wooism. And we don't bring people from that side of the spectrum because we're keeping this crispy. These are creatures that leave tracks. These are creatures that are being seen eaten. These are creatures that supposedly we have some feces from them. So if it's a living, breathing, footprint leaving, chewing, pooping critter, well, then that's what we have to look at, get to that level so we can get to research.
Exactly. And if those other things are true, let's validate it first before we get into all that other stuff. You know, that's
totally agree with your guys.
So we don't say it's not true or doesn't exist, but let's get a hold of one first, you know.
Yeah.
But
so for your viewers, if you can see me, I'm going to light up a cigarette. I'm an Indian. We're allowed to smoke. We invented tobacco. And besides that, there's a lot of mosquitoes
you do
here.
your thing, man. I've got some nicotine in my mouth right now too. So non-tobacco. I went with the Zen, so I don't have to say.
Oh, not me. Carpe diem. Seize the day each day. Enjoy a cigarette and a Big Mac and a beer from time to time. And one day I'll be 6 feet under, tits up. Until then, I'm going to carpe diem.
Don't smoke, kids. Don't smoke.
Yeah, don't smoke. It's too expensive.
Forget that it's bad for you. It is expensive. That's true. No, but tell us a little bit about your program. What do you have? You just have people on that have encounters or working?
No, I'm not smart like you guys and know how to work the computer so I can talk to other people. I do. I'm just getting to the point now where I got a bunch of Indians lined up that I'm going to go with my Yeti mic and my laptop and interview them one-on-one, and that'll be on the show. Right now, it's basically Sasquatch Island, my Facebook group, and it's the blueprint as a hunting guide all my life and a fishing guide and a bush guide. Sasquatch Island is the blueprint to help you better your chances of getting close to Sasquatch. So I'm putting in all kinds of my experience, knowledge, as well as from other native people and non-native. And so it's for someone to go ask to join Sasquatch Island, go to the bathroom, sit down with a beverage, scroll, read, watch, listen, view. And then hopefully after you've read enough, maybe we're going to help you look at and understand Sasquatches. Their formula, like Indians of North America, are seasonal migration to high concentrations of seasonal food with the least amount of energy and calories expelled to fill your belly and your arms, period. So if you do that, and you know that right now I'm in the middle of June, well, it's berry season and forest fire season. The Sasquatches are either in the riverlands, edges of the lakes, or they're up out of the forest in the alpines where the fawn drops are taking place with our hoofed animals. That's where Sasquatches are right now. When they look down from the alpines and they see the sun reflecting off the backs of white seagulls and eagles in the river systems, they know it's late July, August. The salmon are in the rivers now. It's time to come off the mountains and go harvest the salmon. And then when the October, November monsoons hit the Pacific Northwest and the rivers blow out and flood, it's hard to fish. It's now time to go to the shellfish beaches until March. When the herring show up to spawn, disperse to the herring spawn grounds where it's shallow and you pick up herring. Late March, go to the heads of the inlets for some clans where the ooligans are running, the candlefish are running in the rivers thick, so the river's black. And then May comes and it's time for the big low tides where the abalone and the scallops and the limpets and the chitons and other shellfish are exposed, get onto those beaches. So everything's a seasonal migration, and that's the way the native people have been for thousands of years. Right now I'm at a powwow in Muckleshoot Indian Reserve. It's the powwow season, and tribes have migrated here from across North America to come to this powwow. And I can hear them singing in the background. I've been watching them dance. It's beautiful, but the best thing is I'm getting them coming to my Sasquatch Island booth and buying my t-shirts and that, but they're also telling me their experiences throughout Sasquatch Island, North America. And it's all based on seasonal migration for foods.
Well, it sounds like there's plenty to eat out there anyway, and we do appreciate you stepping away from your booth long enough to give us a little bit of your time. We definitely do appreciate that. And let me just kind of pre-qualify something that I said earlier. I don't want people to think that I don't believe people when they come on our show. That's not it at all. I believe people are experiencing exactly what they believe they're experiencing. They're experiencing something, but I kind of look at it in this vein. And Jason and I were talking about this earlier. You know, there are people, David Copperfield, David Blaine, Chris Angel, you know, illusionists that can fool you right to your face. And I feel like Sasquatch kind of has that over us, maybe even 100 times better, that maybe there's something that they do to fool us or whatever. But that's kind of the way I see it, you know, is something, these people are experiencing something. I just think that possibly people could be mistaken. I'm not ever going to call anybody a liar. There's no way I could. I've seen this thing for myself. I know they're there. And you know what you experienced. So I'm never going to say that you experienced or you didn't experience something that you say you did. So I don't want people to think that. It's just the way we believe right now. Until we experience those things, then we'll probably fall off in there. Probably not, but we'll see. That's just, like I said, I just want to kind of pre-qualify that a little bit. But
it's called respect. You know, I don't,
sure.
You know, I'm a Christian, but, you know, I don't look too kindly when 7:30 on Saturday morning when my doorbell rings and my door's being knocked, and I open it up and there's some religious denomination all suited up trying to shove down my throat sideways their version of the Bible. So as Sasquatchologists, you know, some of us are on the woo side, some of us are on the critter side like me and Monster X. We don't shove our critterists down their throat sideways, and I get like a Sasquatchy kick in the butt. I get really aggressive when some woo-woo comes and tries to shove their Sasquatchology sideways down my throat. You know, so it's respect, you know, and that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll listen to anybody, what they have to say, and really you can glean a lot from it, just from someone else's experiences, and anybody else watching this show say, hey, you know, I've experienced that same thing. All we're trying to do is make people aware. We know we can't prove anything.
Yeah,
we can make people aware, and whether they believe or not, or whether anybody believes or not, when you're in the woods and you experience those strange things, you're not explaining it away as something else, that you might actually think that it's possibility that it's one of these creatures, because it is.
Oh yeah, And then you got to be cautious too on either side of the spectrum and everything in between. You got to be cautious of the mental band-aid. We know people that suffer severe trauma, whether it be a bad car accident or being physically or sexually abused. You don't hear them preaching about it every day, trying to shove their, oh, I was so hard done by because this person did this to me or that vehicle did that. They shut it down. Their mind puts a mental band-aid there. Yeah, it was a traumatic experience, but yeah, it happened, but they don't spout and spew about it constantly. And, you know, something happened to me one time with Sasquatch, well, with a long-legged black bear. That's all I remember. A long-legged black bear I saw in the shallow water at lowest tide while I was harvesting cockles, a favorite food of the Sasquatch, a type of shellfish. I was towing my boat around by the painter line, 18-foot aluminum speedboat with the motor up in knee-deep water, picking these shellfish up, cockles out of the eelgrass. And all I remember is I saw the longest-legged black bear in my life. Well, that was about 8 o'clock in the evening. 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up sleeping in my speedboat, dark, foggy, covered in fog dew. And I was wondering, how the hell did I get here? Last thing I remember was I was picking cockles. So there's that time period that's missing. Everyone says, Tom, go get hypnotized. Find out what this long-legged black bear was you saw. I'm like, I'm not going to get hypnotized. I said, Christ, I've been a bushman commercial fisherman. You know how many bloody skeletons I got in my closet? Last thing I want is someone putting that on YouTube while I'm being hypnotized. That ain't happening. But all I know is I saw a long-legged black bear. That's all I know. And I woke up in a kelp patch in the middle of the night, tied to my boat, or my boat tied to it. So to me, that was the mental band-aid. Something traumatic happened in that bay. What it is, I don't know. Maybe one day I'll wake up in the middle of the night and go, hey, I remember. Until then, oh well, c'est la vie.
Right. I didn't mean to take over, Jason. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I got a question. You mentioned about respecting Sasquatch and the Sasquatch by shooting. I mean, I'm okay with guns. You know, I respect it. We in UK you need a license for to carry a weapon. But in America, I know it's a lot more free, you know, to use firearms, especially in the forest and that kind of thing. And I think it's great for protection. But you were saying respect Sasquatch by firing at them or firing, and you think they would respect you for that?
At that time, the Sasquatch disrespected me and my crew and my sister. They kicked us out of my camp where I put my cabins a year before. So they disrespected me. They pushed me. I had to push back. So I went in there shooting my guns with 2 other guys all around my cabins. At the same time, peeing as much as I could, marking my territory. I always go in the bush with a gun. It's just what I do. I've been a grizzly bear hunting guide, black bear hunting guide, bushman. I lived there for decades. So it's just what you do. Well, to me, being an Indian in Canada, I'm allowed to harvest an animal for food, social, ceremonial purposes, 24/7, 365 days a year. That's the law. Well, I always say, if anything gets within 15 feet of me aggressively, and it's coming at me and it breaks the 10 or 15-foot boundary and it's coming at me, it becomes food, social, ceremonial really bloody quick, meaning I'll load them up with lead, and before they blink, I'm going to load them up with some more. And absolutely, I don't care what it is. You know, it's survival. If you're not crispy and you don't push the extremes and act aggressive when you have to act aggressive in the forest, you're going to end up being pooped out. Everything gets pooped out in the forest eventually. Everything, including humans. Missing 411.
Hey, no doubt. I agree with that 100%. I hear a lot of people that they try to habituate with them. They try to be friendly. And to me, that's dangerous. It is. I just don't think we know enough about them to try to be their friends. I don't think they want to be friends with us anyway. I don't think they care enough about us to want to be that close. Maybe they want to watch us, fine. But I wouldn't trust them. I couldn't do it.
Oh, they hate us. They despise us. They loathe us. Just like many North American Indians look at the non-natives of North America. Let's look around. You know, look at that big water tower. You know, look at all the trees behind me that aren't there no more. And that's North America, Sasquatch Island. So can you imagine putting yourself in the feet of Sasquatch? how they would feel about us, the hairless bipedal human.
Oh yeah,
You know, they're
I'm
the
not
feral
saying it's
human
not
with
founded.
hair. Yeah, and they just, you know, we just, everything we do, we destroy or take too much of. We eradicate, we pollute. And, you know, you can't go anywhere in the Pacific Northwest, Washington State, without seeing a beer can or a plastic wrapper or empty bullet shells or shotgun shells. So the Sasquatch has a reason why they're the watchers. They've been watching us since the dawn of our creations. Us Native Indians, we have stories of interactions, and I'm reaching out to Indians right now in Omaha Indian Reservation with Lucas White, my investigator that works with Sasquatch Island. I just found one here in the Muckleshoot Indian Reserve last night who came and seen me today. Sounds like she's getting some pretty good interaction going at a distance with her local Sasquatch. And then I got others from different Indian tribes that they don't trust the non-Indian. But because Sasquatch Island, Tom Sewid is front and center, is this Indian investigator that's no BS, and you know, he says what he means and means what he says. I'm one of them, and they're coming forward to me with a modern day smoke signal called the internet and Facebook Messenger and Facebook, and they're saying, "Hey Tom, we want to share with you what's happening on our reserve." You know, I got stories of people disappearing for a couple months on end. They're living with them. The Omaha Indian Reserve, they call us Sitonga, the Sasquatch, keepers of the medicine. I talked to a medicine woman on the Omaha Indian Reserve that gets her medicines. She picks plants, puts them on a table outside her house with food. At nighttime, Sitonga comes and separates what's good that season from that particular plant, whether it be root, bark, stem, or leaf, or bud, or flower. And they take her offering of food and they leave what is good of that medicine that time of the year. So there's interactions going on between Sasquatch and Native Indians throughout Sasquatch Island, North America. It's been going on since the dawn of our creations. We refer to Sasquatch as the other tribe. We all respect them and always advocate respecting them. But at the same turn, it's a lot about the Native culture, and our way of life is still taboo to share it with the non-Indians. And that's what I'm trying to establish. How much does the different tribes want to share? Some tribes don't even want to talk about it. Some tribes are walking by my booth, says Sasquatch Island with the image I drew, and they're scowling at us sitting in there because how dare they share the stories of the Sasquatch with the non-Indians? So, you know, some may even look at it, oh, they're exploiting the Sasquatch. Yeah, there's boundaries with the different tribes. There's over 600 tribes in North America, and everyone's going to be different, and we have to respect that as well. But the ones that come forward, I'm sharing their perspectives and stories.
Absolutely. Well, you know, that's not very hateful, you know, showing someone how to pick out the different medicines. So do you think there's a different relationship between natives and Sasquatch than non-natives and Sasquatch?
Oh, absolutely. Is there a difference between how Indians react to Indians and non-Indians in North America? Oh, absolutely. You know, I can reflect on your co-host there that's from the UK. I remember when Indians first started going to the UK in the 70s, and the stories they told me about how the English treated them when they were in England. You know, and, you know, this even goes when my grandfather sat down with the Queen of England for tea. And he came back, and his story was, you know, we were offended that the Queen would actually say things like that to this Indian chief. So, you know, yeah, it's still there. And that's what we're trying to correct and rectify. We're trying to get that cohesiveness, that, you know, working together between the different tribes, Indian and non-Indian. And of course, we got the other tribe that we're all trying to interact with. And we don't know jack bugger all about them yet, you know, and that's what we're trying to do, is get that interaction.
Well, you know, we were actually only able to go and film on the Omaha res because Linda and I are both more than 20% Native American. I'm actually 23% Cherokee and Choctaw on either side of the family. And Linda's, I think she's a little bit more than that. She's got the dark hair and the dark skin, and I don't know what I got. I got the Norwegian, the Viking in me too. So I think more of that came out than anything else. But we wouldn't have been able to get there at all had we not had that heritage, and we had to prove that too. So.
Yeah. There's a lot going on that Indian Reserve. Lucas, there's dirt clods thrown at him a couple months ago. We brought him here last June to Seattle, flew him out here. Peggy and I sent him home with an Android 5 with a FLIR device attached to it, along with a parabolic dish. And I said, okay, here we signed the contract. We're 50-50. Go and get some good proof for the existence of your Sitanga. 3 days later, he phones me, goes, gee, I'm sorry I took so long. I go, what do you mean? Oh, well, it took me 3 days to get you video of Sitanga. And he uploaded it, bumped it up to the cloud. I looked at it. I'm like, Jesus, took him 3 days. And he's apologizing about it. I've been out there for 30 years and I haven't got an image close to that. So Lucas, when I came out and I emailed Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Dr. John Bindernagel, my good friend who's no longer with us, Todd Neese from the American Primate Conservancy, Les Stroud. When I came back and I sent all 4 of them the email about Lucas, the title was, I Found Tarzan. 12 years old, he was living in the forest of Macy, Nebraska. And to this day, he knows what Sitanga was close by him, keeping the wild dogs and the coyotes and the cougars away from him when he was this kid, terrified, living in the bush of Macy, Nebraska. Now he's, one of my lead investigators, and hopefully he'll get us our proof, hopefully.
No doubt. Well, hey, I'll tell you what, let's hang on just a second. Let's take just a minute while we're a little better than halfway through. Just want to ask everybody in the chat, take just a second, go over there and hit that little X by your chat. Hit that little thumbs up button for us. While you're doing that, we want your encounters. Wednesday nights are narrations, and Saturdays we reserve for special researchers and guests. We will have researchers on Wednesdays also. But if you have a story and you want it out there, you don't want to tell it yourself, you can email us at theresearchersreport.gmail.com, and we'll take your narrations. If you want to come on here and tell your story yourself, go to bigfootodyssey.us. You can fill out our survey, or you can find my phone number right there on the home page. And right after this live show ends, look in the description. You'll see 2 links. You'll see one link for the Paranormal Gift Shop. Paranormal Gift Shop has thousands of gift items and novelty items, from UFO to ghost to Sasquatch and many others. Use promo code Bigfoot Odyssey 10. That's Bigfoot Odyssey, all one word, the number 10, and get an additional 10% off your purchase. Also, you'll see a link for My Patriot Supply. My Patriot Supply is prepackaged meals. They last up to 25 years. Hurricane season is coming. Wildfire season is coming. A majority of our land is still underwater this day. You never know when something's going to happen. So be prepared. Get you a food supply, store it up. You can go right now to the special link. There is our special website. It's preparewithbigfoot.com. And the 1 week ammo can, get 48% off of that when you go and use our link. You get 48% off. It comes down to less than $2 a meal. That's 7 breakfasts, 7 lunch, 7 dinners. Don't wait for breaking news, because by then it's going to be too late. All right. We'll get back to it now. How to pay the bills,
Hey, I want to order that meal kit. I like the sounds of that.
It's great, man. It's all freeze dried. They got the freeze dried fruit is fantastic. We're going to start actually having that in our travel shows. But it's My Patriot Supply. Well, when we get done, just go to Bigfoot Odyssey. You can go to any link in any one of our shows, and you can find that, or just go to their website and buy it. You don't have to buy it through us. You just get that 48%.
Yeah, I'll go to you guys and buy it. I'm ordering some.
If you go through us, you get the 48% off. You get the 48% discount on that 1 week package there, and the 2 week package, I think. So. Yeah,
because it gets real tiring eating clams all the time out in the bush.
Well, it's perfect for those researchers, people that go camping. It's not like an MRE. I don't know if you've ever had an MRE, meals ready to eat, military. No, it's nothing like that. These actually taste good. So I would tell anybody to go get some. Some people have already purchased a few, and we're going to start stocking up on it. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, I'll try it out, because I'm planning on going in the fall. I'm going to go up in the Alpines in British Columbia. I like going up there. I call it being at the entrance to heaven. And you go up there for 3 weeks to a month and get away from all the hairless humans for a while. That's what I'm looking forward to. But there's no clams up there.
Jason, you had something, didn't you? I'm sorry, I cut you off earlier.
Yeah. No, you mentioned earlier, Tom, about that they hate us, they hate humans. Do you think, who do you think this applies to? Is it because you mentioned also that you had a younger member in your team, and do you think that they would feel the Sasquatch feel more confident approaching younger members, for instance. Maybe they have an innocence to them that they would feel more comfortable with. Do you think that the Sasquatch would somehow understand this feeling?
They like kids, according to my native tribe's beliefs. Like my wife, when we do performances and Sasquatch conferences, I'll be talking about our beliefs to the Sasquatch, and she'll come out in a full mask and costume or regalia with a basket on her back, and she's posturing, throwing misbehaving children into the basket. And Jonah apparently grabs misbehaving children at night that are not listening to their parents and rubs spruce sap from a tree into their eyes so they can't see, puts them in the basket or a sack and brings them deep into the forest to an invisible home and eats them. And that's why we can't find Sasquatch. They're in an invisible home deep in the mountains. But it's right there that in my tribal beliefs, it's this interest for children. And there's so many reports about it. And even me, when I was building my cabins in 2005, I was working on the porch of one of the cabins. My dog was lying on the ground, and all of a sudden he stood up, hackles, growling, looking at the bush to my left at this bank with trees, and he's walking towards my son. So I grabbed my 30-30 rifle, put it beside me, and I walked down behind my dog towards my son. And as I got about 60 feet down the beach to my right, I could see the Sasquatch standing behind a tree, big bugger too, about 7 foot. And he was just looking, eyeballs beaming at my son, just looking at him. And I just looked, yo, Bajos Chonacha. Hello, how you doing? I don't know who you are. What do you want? And I said, you leave my Wisabidu, my little boy, alone, because I'm taught. You taught your native language to them, which I did. That big Sasquatch just looked at me and then gruffed and then turned and walked up the bank of the hill, but not quietly. It let me know and let me see that it was there. So yeah, they have a big curiosity to children from my experience and from the stories I've heard. And, you know, you look at 3 months ago when that little boy went missing for 2 days and he came out in North America. He was with a bear for 2 days. No bear in the fall is going to look after a little kid that's going to eat it and poop it out. That was not a bear that little kid was with. That was with the big Sasquatch.
Absolutely how I feel about it.
And you mentioned earlier that you know of somebody who's actually spent time with them. How close do you think they were?
Lucas taught me one thing when I was at the Omaha Indian Reserve. He said, they have laws, Tom, very strict laws. I have a lot to tell you. I will tell you in time. So in other words, you have to get trust with me. Now he's getting to a higher level of trust, and he shares with me how when he was a young boy at 14, when he ran away from foster care in March, springtime, when it warmed up, he carved a bank of sand in a levee and a little cave, his little, that he would sleep in. And while he was in there, he could hear the Sitonga about 8 feet above him on the forest walk, and then it would sit there while he went to sleep. So Lucas has enlightened me that he got pretty close with them. How close? I actually think he used to sit with them. And he's let out a few things, you know, and he'll tell me in time. I'll share it with everyone at Sasquatch Island and with Monster X Radio. I'm planning on going to see him here pretty soon and interview him, video him and everything and put him on YouTube. But others have heard, you know, they get pretty close. Like, you know, there's one Indian person stopped by my canopy yesterday and said that they had a relative who disappeared for 3 weeks. And there's a, you know, teenager who was getting in trouble drinking and that showed up. And then when he was questioned about where he was and that, he just said that he was with Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and kind of straightened his life out. Well, that say another Indian reserve, not 2 years ago, some teenager was staggering home after drinking just before daylight. He looked over to his right and there was two, what he thought were humans. They were Sasquatches. They ran at him. One picked him up, carried him across the asphalt road and threw him into the ditch. The kid ended up in the hospital for a day or two in shock. And then when he got out of the hospital and that, he didn't say much about what happened, but he quit drinking and quit smoking pot and being a little bad kid, basically. So their interactions, like I say, I'm getting it all the time from different Indians, and, you know, they're comfortable to share it with me, but I always ask them, is it all right if I share this with my listeners, the people that follow Sasquatch Island? Oh yeah, go ahead. I don't mind. Just don't use my name. Don't use my tribe. No problem. I won't. And, out of respect, but, it's showing you that there's this interaction that's always been going on and still is. And that young non-Indian boy who went missing a few months ago and was with a bear, apparently, there's another chunk of evidence that the interactions have and always will take place.
No doubt. We do have a couple of questions here. I got one from the Weird Desk US. Did you say that your beliefs say they are invisible? And isn't that non-flesh and blood? I don't remember you saying that. But
no, I said the stories say they live in an invisible home. No, to my tribe, they're a living, breathing critter.
Gotcha. Let's see. We got Carl Gotro. LA Swamp Ape says, why do they seem to like German Shepherds? Is it because they look like wolves? I don't know how anybody would know that, but what do you think?
I don't know. Wolf's a wolf to me out in the bush. Sasquatch is a Sasquatch. There's nothing in between in my region. I can only speak for my region. I can't speak for other parts of North America. I
know Carl's got some German Shepherds. Well, they're actually King Shepherds. And they're actually coming into his backyard and messing with the dogs, and I'm sure that's why he had asked that question. We got one here from Scarborough Sasquatch Station. It says, Tom, do you believe the Sasquatch may use fire to cook meals or make medicines?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. I've heard too many reports about remnants of fires and caves and overhangs against bluffs. So I think they do use it to a certain extent. And to me, the Sasquatch is a feral human. They were humans thousands of years ago that were sitting there looking around in the village they were at, going, what's going on with us? We're using clothes now from the animals. We're using bark to make clothes and baskets to carry things. We're whittling rocks into tools and weapons. We have weapons. We're going to war with other tribes. We're having animosity within the tribe because someone's house is bigger than the other house and more warmer because they got a better fire hearth. And I think some of the Indians at that time said, you know what? As the leader of our family clan, I'm done with this. We're not going to be like all these petty people. We're going to leave our clothes and our weapons, and we're going to walk back into Mother Earth, into the forest, and we're going to live a more in tune with nature, life, existence. We're not going to have tools. We're not going to use fire all the time. We're not going to have clothing. And I believe, and because being a bushman, if you have a dog and you release it to the Indian reservation, and all of a sudden they mixes with the wild dogs at the Indian reservation, if you don't get your dog back within a couple of weeks, you'll never get that dog back. It's gone feral. It gets mean, aggressive. It won't come to you. If you have a pig and it's nice and pink and little blonde hair and you let it go wild, within a couple months, it's got tusks and heavier hair and brown and gets bigger and becomes very aggressive. That's nature's code. That's the creator's way of making that thing through evolution adapt to its environment. It's no longer being coddled by the human. It has to fend for itself. So in turn, it has to get warmth by getting hairier. It has to get bigger because it has to keep up with the whole pack. It gets aggressive because there's a pecking order that's established. And that's what I believe Sasquatch is. They were the humans that walked away from the pettiness of what was going on in the villages thousands of years ago. And nature took care of them, made them bigger, made them hairier, and gave them nocturnal vision, because they couldn't interact in the daytime with us hairless humans with spears and fire and mass and bows and arrows, because we were protecting our shellfish beds, our berry patches, our clover fields, our fishing stations in the rivers, because that's my tribal law. In my tribal law in the old days, if someone went into your harvest grounds that was your property, you could kill them without any retribution to you, yourself or your family within tribe. That's the way it was. Nowadays, you can't look at someone sideways or call them a nasty word because, God forbid, we've offended them, and next thing you know, they got you in court. Well, human society as a whole is weak, totally weak. And, you know, for the Sasquatches, we know that there's no bloody way they're weak. You hear the reports how someone sees 6 of them or 8 of them walking. It's always the biggest to the smallest. So it tells us right there that the pecking order of rank and your position within that clan is held in place. by the size of what you are possibly. My tribal ways, I belong to the Hamatsa Society. For your listeners, Google Hamatsa, and it's part of the Kwakwaka'wakw Nation. I'm not going to say anything on air. You guys just go Google it and find out what society I belong to. We were the most aggressive warriors possible. Even in this modern day, I'm trained in aspects from my culture that would offend most very devout religious people. But it's just the way it is, because I am the right-hand man of my chief. I have to protect him at all costs. So that's what nature and bush is all about. And that's why I don't go skipping que sera through the forest looking for tree structures and portholes, because I'm breaking the law. I'm breaking the code. I'm not being crispy. I'm not being in tune with what's around me. And that's why we can't find Sasquatch, because they're so adept at the world they're in. You know, they've forgotten more about moving through the forest quietly and not being seen than we will ever know. And that's why the world's greatest hide and seek champion right now. But guys like me and others and girls, we're going to bag and tag and get them in camera one day.
One day. Well, all that just sounds like it makes too much sense to me. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I was always of the mind that, you know, something that was covered in hair didn't really want to fool with fire too much, you know. But, you know, like I said, you find these remnants of fire. Maybe they do use it for some reason. I don't know. I do have a question here, and you kind of touched on it. Brown Dwarf asked, you ever find structures like on the beach or anything like that, stick structures? I'm sure you don't go looking for them, but do you just find anything like that?
Yes, but as soon as I find it, I investigate it, and then I look around 360 degrees and up and down in the trees. Because to me, looking on the internet, when I'm in the concrete jungle and I have time and I'm sitting there and I see all these pictures of tree structures, most of the time I roll my eyes and shake my head, because I'm going, they're naturals. They're a natural occurring tree structure. But the ones that make me go, that's something, that's interesting. Well, if you go in the forest and you break the code of crispiness and you're looking for tree structures, well, you don't see that root or that slippery rock that you just tripped over and popped your knee. What happens? You get pooped out. So I don't go in there looking for tree structures. And besides that, what Lucas and I have identified is some tree structures are deterrents from you going a certain way. They want you to become intrigued by these structures they made so that you spend time there. And as you spend time there, instead of walking to that one direction where you should have went, that's where maybe their sleeping area was. I think some tree structures are deliberately put to distract us hairless ones to move away from them and not focus on what we're supposed to be doing, finding Bigfoot.
Well, that makes a whole lot of sense too. We'll take one more from Ern Harvick. What do you think about them living underground?
Yes and no. You got to remember, the law of the bush is the least amount of energy expelled to meet your objective, whether it be filling your belly or building a shelter. Like when I watch Alone right now, and for all you viewers, watch Alone on the History Channel, that really good-looking girl named Nikki. I'm the one who brought her to the bush in British Columbia. She's a good friend of mine. But you look at the structures on Alone. I'm watching it with my wife, and I just feel like throwing a beer bottle at the TV. I'm like rolling my eyes going, stupid people. What do they go build a big structure like that for? So hard to heat. And if you do heat it, you got to gather more wood. You got to burn more wood. Make it like a little cocoon, like your mother's womb that held you for the first 9 months of your existence. That's the proper structure. It's called an earth house to the Omaha tribes, these little wombs that we built. So going underground makes perfect sense, especially up in the Northwest Territories where I lived for a year and I was investigating Naga, their Sasquatch. And that's what it seemed that they were doing, was living in either caves or they were building holes in lake areas in the ground. And in some cases, they were using making structures look like beaver dens, where in fact they were the entryways to their underground habitations. But the local Indians knew when you saw something like that, you turned around and you got the hell out of there.
No doubt. Well, I'll tell you what, we got time enough for one more, and I'm going to do this one from Jamie Cotterill. So please ask him the significance of totems. What's the significance with Sasquatch and the totems, your tribe or any other tribe? Can you explain it?
My Kwakwaka'wakw tribe and my art that you'll see throughout Sasquatch Island, my Facebook group, the Chunahwa, the wild woman of the woods, the female Sasquatch, will be depicted on our memorial poles and dowry poles, ridicule poles, and welcoming poles. And with outstretched arms, it's signifying my power, my wealth can be felt around the world because I, as the chief of this family clan or hereditary clan, we're very wealthy. We have the Chunahua crest. And the Chunahua is the most valuable crest to have in your family's box of treasure to the Kwakwaka'wakw people. And that's why Vancouver Island is the world's highest concentration of wood Sasquatches made by Indians in the world. We got Chunahua totems all over the place because families are proclaiming their grandeur, like someone buying a $40,000 Rolex or a $500,000 Lamborghini. You're showing that you have a big one. You're wealthy. And that's what the Chunahua depicts. In the ridicule pole, same thing. Welcoming pole, you're welcoming them with the Chunahua. So the totem pole, we don't use totem. We use memorial pole, welcoming pole, dowry pole, ridicule pole. You try to put your powerful crests under. You're proclaiming with signage of these crests, what crests you hold title to, what your Nuyum, your first ancestor was, where the animal transformed into the first human to become the Kwakwaka'wakw family you belong to. And then the crests tell a story, and it's interpreted by the artist or the clan that it held title to. But yeah, if you're a Sasquatch, interested in Sasquatches, get your butt to Vancouver Island and come enjoy our crests of Chunahua carved all over the place.
Well, I'll tell you what, Linda and I would love to get up there and film an episode with you, do a little documentary on what you got going on there.
Oh, hell yeah. Like I always tell people, and I was talking to someone from a production company, I said, Sasquatchology is getting dry as a popcorn fart. You know, all these non-Indians with all their speculation. Come to us Indians. Come sit with us at our fires. Come into our longhouses, our teepees, our modern homes, our cultural centers, our museums, and let us share our story pertaining to the Sasquatch Bigfoot that we know and have been living with since the dawn of our creations. Because in all honesty, another non-native talking about Sasquatch and speculating, like, come on now, it's dry as a popcorn fart. We got to get the Indian story. And that's what Sasquatch Island and Monster X Radio is all about.
Well, we don't go looking for Bigfoot, and we make that plain and clear. We just tell everybody else's story that does, and I imagine you have one heck of an Odyssey to tell, and we'd love to get up there and do that. Probably be the beginning of next year before we have a chance to. We're pretty booked up right now, but still, I got your number. We're going to stay in contact. But before we end off right here, just remind everybody again, you got a story you want out there, you want us to narrate it for you, email at us at the researchers report at gmail.com. Send us your account. Daniela, our producer for the show, takes care of all that. She actually does a lot of work. She does all the booking. She reads a lot of encounters. She does hours and hours of work on this show every day, and we can't thank her enough for that. If you'd like to come on here and tell your story yourself, go to our website, bigfootodyssey.us, and fill out our survey, or you can call me. Call me anytime. If I don't answer, I'll call you right back. Check out links for the Paranormal Gift Shop and my Patriot Supply. Those will be in there directly after this show. And what we got coming up Wednesday, Ryan Redding. We're going to have a narration to tell, and we're going to have Ryan Redding on with Miss Daniela Aiello. Next Saturday is Matt Squatch with our very own Mr. Jason Parsons, Bigfoot Tony. And then the Wednesday after that's the Wednesday before we leave to film episode 10. We've got Christopher Noel and Ron Moorhead, and we're looking forward to it. Tom, we'd love to have you back on, man. Just let us know when you can when you're not at a powwow, and maybe we can get a little bit better signal out of you.
Oh, heck yeah. No, anytime. I'm glad to come on your show. Thanks for all you viewers and listeners watching this.
Awesome. Jason is actually does video analysis for us also, but he's got his channel Bigfoot Tony. If you haven't gone and subscribed to Bigfoot Tony on YouTube, go and do that now. You will not be disappointed. Man does the most important job of anybody in this business, and that's holding people's feet to the fire, and we love him for it. But thanks everybody for joining us here tonight. You guys hang on. Y'all take care. We'll see you Wednesday at 7 p.m.
Take care.
Central.
Thank you.